Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and unpack a truly fascinating framework for raising self-reliant kids. I mean, we all want the absolute best for the next generation, right? But sometimes our best intentions can kind of backfire. So today, we're exploring an incredibly insightful framework developed by Tameka Montgomery. She drew this directly from her 2 decades of experience working with adult business owners, and it answers a question that plagues almost every caregiver today. So here is the roadmap for our explainer today. First, we'll look at the parenting trap. Next, the mindset shift. Then we'll cover the 5 strategies. And finally, preparing for life. All right, section 1, the parenting trap. Good intentions, unintended consequences.
It really is the ultimate question for any parent, isn't it? How do we actually raise self-reliant kids? The ones you have that spark of initiative who can just solve their own problems. We want them to have the courage to step outside their comfort zones, grab life by the horns, and take advantage of every opportunity. But, as the source material points out, despite all our best efforts, well, we might actually be going about it completely backwards.
See, our natural instinct is to shield and indulge. It makes perfect sense, right? Because we want our kids to be happy, we try to curate this perfect, bump-free life for them. We shield them from disappointment, we constantly praise them to boost their self-esteem, and yeah, we overindulge them. We step in so they literally never have to fail. But what's the actual result of this protective bubble? We end up with kids who are absolutely terrified of failure. They lack the confidence to figure things out on their own, and that leads directly to a complete inability to, launch into adulthood. To put that into perspective, Pew Research actually found that 52% of young adults are currently living at home. That is the highest it's been since the Great Depression. And get this, it was a trend happening even before the pandemic. So we're seeing this massive population of young people essentially stuck in a holding pattern right between adolescence and full adulthood. In fact, this struggle is so widespread that we literally invented a word for it: adulting. The very fact that young folks today use this term as a verb, like, I have to go adult today, when they have to make basic, responsible decisions, really shows just how challenging this transition has become. We're missing a huge opportunity here to raise resilient kids who can confidently grab hold of their futures in such a fast-changing world. Which brings us to section 2, the mindset shift, thinking like a founder. So after 20 years of supporting adult business owners, the speaker, Tameka Montgomery, realized something huge. Traction actually had way less to do with innate skill and literally everything to do with mindset. She'd see 2 people walk into her office with the exact same resources, same skills, same business acumen, and one would completely thrive, while the other would just struggle to even get going. It wasn't about their capabilities at all. It was entirely about how they viewed the world. And that realization sparked a 15-year journey for her, asking, what if we could raise kids to view the world through this exact same entrepreneurial lens? Let me give you a great example. Take 9-year-old Silas. He really wanted to fly to Colorado. Now, his parents didn't just buy him the ticket. Instead, they coached him to problem-solve his way to earning it himself. First, he researched Craigslist for free stuff to resell. Then, he spent the whole summer hustling, washing cars, baking cookies, and guess what? He earned that $300. His parents guided him, for sure, but when it came time to actually knock on doors, they stepped back and let him take the lead. Just imagine the massive, unbelievable confidence that built in a 9-year-old. So, the absolutely crucial point here is this. These aren't some rare, mystical traits you're just born with. They are behaviors. Behaviors that can be nurtured and taught. When people hear the story of Silas, they often say, oh wow, my kid could never do that. They just don't have the entrepreneurial gene. But actually, entrepreneurs are not born. These are 100% teachable, nurturable skills that emerge when children are simply given the opportunity and the right environment to practice them. All right, moving on to section 3, the 5 strategies. Disrupting conventional parenting. Okay, strategy 1, ditch the free allowance. Instead, challenge them to start a micro-business, something simple like making and selling bracelets, to learn the true value of $1. When kids simply get a free allowance handed to them, they completely miss out on the incredible lessons of hard work. But by challenging them to actually earn their spending money, they're forced to learn public speaking, how to convince people, and real financial literacy. I mean, there is absolutely no better lesson on the value of $1 than having to literally sweat to earn every single one of them. Strategy 2 is making them pay for their wants. It completely shifts the responsibility over to them. This could be a 4-year-old earning daddy dollars for a new bike, or older kids hustling to buy their own $900 ticket to Tanzania.
It is seriously amazing how much a child's desire for a toy or even a big experience changes when they have to foot the bill themselves. Montgomery started this super early, handing out daddy dollars for chores and reading, which her 4-year-old then used to buy his very first bike. Later on, when her older boys wanted to join a family trip to Tanzania, they had to sell bracelets for months to cover their $900 tickets. And you know what? They did it. They took complete ownership of the entire process.
Strategy 3 is to consciously reduce their prosperity. It's a concept perfectly captured by this profound quote from the 1800s. Look, we all want to give our kids the things we didn't have growing up, but overindulging them, giving them too much, too soon, for way too long, with zero effort on their part, it actually breeds entitled and self-centered young people. Like Frederick Douglass warned us centuries ago, surrounding a child with luxury and ease effectively renders them helpless, simply by placing them completely beyond the reach of necessity.
And we can see how this idea builds right into modern advice. If our kids literally never want for anything, they will completely lack the hunger needed to motivate action. Remember Steve Jobs famously telling graduates to stay hungry? What we admire so much in successful people is their hustle. But that hustle, it's always rooted in a deep, burning hunger for something. If we artificially curate a life where our kids never want for anything, we destroy the exact motivation they need to take action and achieve their own goals. Moving to strategy 4, let them be delight-directed. This encourages lifelong self-taught learning. A great example is how Montgomery's son, Isaiah, followed his sheer passion for drawing to win a Smithsonian Award and eventually start designing logos. See, entrepreneurs learn to actually do, not just to know. So instead of just pouring information into our kids' heads, we should be giving them the room and the space to follow their delights. Isaiah loved drawing, right? So he sought out classes entirely on his own, spent hours practicing, created award-winning art, and ultimately turned that self-taught passion into a real business, designing logos for actual clients. And finally, strategy 5, let them solve their own problems. Basically, resist our natural instinct to step in so we don't accidentally squelch their ability to discover their own hidden capabilities. As caregivers, we absolutely hate seeing our kids struggle. It's tough. But when we constantly swoop in and solve their problems for them, we're robbing them of the chance to go out and find the answers for themselves. We have to let them face challenges so they can finally discover just how incredibly capable they really are. Which brings us to section 4, preparing kids for life, beyond business ownership. Now, whether your child ends up building a massive company or becomes a fantastic employee, these are the universal life skills they gain when they're raised with an entrepreneurial lens. Because actually, this whole framework, it's not about forcing your kids to become business owners. Not at all. It's about equipping them for life. By challenging their beliefs about what's possible, letting them take risks, and allowing them to learn from their failures, they build real tenacity. They learn to speak up for themselves. They learn how to bounce back from fear and rejection. And honestly, these are the exact skills required in our modern world to truly live up to one's full potential. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Ultimately, the grand goal here is to create an environment that challenges our kids, putting them on a path to a highly successful and deeply fulfilling life. So as we look to apply these lessons in our own homes, it leaves us with one powerful, lingering question to ask ourselves every single day. Are you curating their comfort or cultivating their capability?